Okay, we're going back to the beginning. Okay, we're gonna share the screen. I forgot all about this. We're going back to the share screen. Here we go. So because we are beginning the night, the day begins with the night before. Consequently, when it says that he chanced upon the place and Vayifka, Rashi says, is an expression of prayer. He prayed over there. He prayed Ma'ariv. Why did Yaakov establish Ma'ariv? Ma'ariv should have been established by Abraham, and then Yitzchak should have established Shacharis, and Yaakov should have established Mincha, because that's the way the day goes. We start with Ma'ariv, then we go to Shacharis, then we go to Mincha. Why does it say that Yaakov was the one who established the prayer of Ma'ariv? So Rav Hirsch, so beautifully, Rav Shamshul Hirsch, who we quote so often, and makes clarity for us out of the order of the Psukim very often, explains as follows. When it says that Avraham established Shacharis, and Yitzchak established Mincha, and Yaakov established Ma'ariv, it's because that was the path of the Jewish people in those days and in these days. As the Ramban said in Parsha Lech Lecha, Maasei Avos Siman Levanim. It's really said in a little bit different way. Kol Mashi Avos Siman Levanim. Whatever happened to the fathers is a sign to the children, but it is. Whatever happened to our parents is signs to the children. Now let's analyze this. When Avram came on the world and mass produced, so to speak, the faith in the one and only Hashem, he taught everyone about it. The world had a new dawn. The world was awakened to the fact that paganism is futile and foolish, because all the things that were worshipped individually were really one whole thing. Hashem Echad, the singularity of the unity of God, is something that was taught by Avraham Avinu. And so it was a new dawn. And so you could say that Avraham established Shacharis because he made the world aware of the dawn of man's thinking and approaching life, instead of from a paganistic view, into one of a spiritual world that was created by Hashem, both in the physical and spiritual sense. Yitzchak was the one who, even though he was the son of the great founder of this idea, he himself already faced troubles in his life. And it was not as much of a dawn as Avram had, because already we sensed that there was something amiss in the world at large with the acceptance of Yitzchak, so that the Plishtim went and stuffed the wells that Avraham had dug. They tried to destroy the life-giving elixir of water that everyone could live by. They wanted to stuff up the ideas that Avraham had brought about. And Yitzchak had to redig them. And he had problems all along with this. But ultimately, he settled back, hopefully, to see a good result of the promises that were made to Avraham, but it was not to be, because he had Yaakov and Esav, and Yaakov, who was given the bracha, rightfully, we discussed it in last week's Parsha Shiur in the Shul, but Yaakov was given the brachas rightfully, and the bracha was that he would be the one who would carry the promise of Avraham Avinu, but he, right here in this week's Sedra, like it says in front of you, Vayetze Yaakov Be'er-Sheva Vayelech Harana, he went into Golus. Yaakov was the father who went into Golus and began the dark night of Golus. So Yaakov established Ma'ariv. Yaakov's the father of the Golus. Ultimately, of course, they come out of there, as the Torah tells us as time went on. Okay, so that's Vayetze Yaakov Be'er-Sheva Vayelech Harana. He comes to the place, the sun had set. He took from the stones of the place and he put them around his head. I'll just mention one thing about this, because we discussed this in last year's Parsha Shiur, which is available online, by the way. When he put them around his head, it was to teach us that the most important thing that he knew he had to protect, and we're going to see this later in the Parsha Shiur, The thing he knew he had to protect was his head, because even though Rashi says he put it around his head to protect his body from wild animals, it's clear if you put something only around your head, you're not going to be protected from all wild animals. What he was aiming for was the protection of the mind, because when a Jew is in Golus, just as we need protection of our bodies, anyone who has any knowledge of Jewish history knows that that's the fact, but even more so, the Jewish people need protection for their minds. And some people make the erroneous assumption that if my body is going to be protected, because I'll be just like them, they will like me more, and nothing could be further from the truth. The more we become like them, the less it happens. In fact, in Germany, we were more like the Goyim than in any other period in history. Because in every other period in history, if a Jew would have been told convert or die, they would never convert. Well, the Germans would have offered that. Oh, thousands, I'm ashamed to say, maybe even more than thousands, would have taken that choice. As we know, the Enlightenment, you'll excuse me if I put them in parentheses because it's anything but that, began in Germany, and that was the destruction and downfall of the Jewish soul in Germany. And so Yaakov is the father of Golus. Okay, we know he had a dream. He sees a ladder, climbed the ladder of success. Hashem is standing over him and he's telling him, the land that you're living on it, prophecy, I'm giving it to you and to your children. To this day, that prophecy is coming true. Now, Hashem tells him something that should give us pause, and we're going to focus for a moment on this pasuk. The pasuk says, "V'haya zaracha ka'afar ha'aretz." Your seed will be, your children will be like the dust of the earth. And then the stupendously brilliant prophecy that came true to this day, and of course, anyone who has any Lubavitch leanings is very familiar with this. You shall spread out to the west, to the east, to the north, and to the south. By the way, I'll just point out, it's really not in the real order, north, south, east, west. You know, it's a little bit different because Israel is the place you're starting from. So Yama means to the Yam, to the west, Kedma means to the east, Safona means to the north, Negma means to the south, but they're opposites. Instead of going in a clockwise or counterclockwise, we're going opposites because the Jewish people went from extreme to extreme. Let's go further. Here it says we were compared, we will be, your seed will be like the dust of the earth. Are any of us aware of the two other things the Jewish people are compared to? There are two other things that we're compared to besides the dust of the earth. And this seems to be the lowliest of them. And not surprisingly, by the way, because after all, Yaakov is going into Golus. So it seems it would be the lowest of them, the Afar Ha'aretz, which we're going to see is not really the lowest at all. So we're compared to the dust of the earth. The other two things, anybody guess yet what they were? One is the stars in the sky. Avraham Avinu was told that your children will be as numerous as, or as bright as the stars in the sky. When he told him, go outside, see the stars, see if you can count them, Ko yihi yazarecha, like this will be your children. So the children of Israel are going to be like the stars in the sky. That's one. Another thing that we're compared to is the chol hayam, the sand of the sea. So those are the three main things the Jewish people are compared to. And it would seem that the dust of the earth is the most downtrodden, but hidden in that dust of the earth concept is something that is very comforting to us. And that is, dust is indestructible. It cannot be destroyed. Dust that you destroy remains dust. You cannot get rid of dust. If you don't believe me, ask anyone who tries to clean under the bed. You know, dust, you cannot get rid of dust. It's always there. And even if you throw it away, it comes right back. It's impossible to destroy it. The Jewish people are impossible to destroy. There's one more thing, which is brought down by the commentary of Hadrash Iyun. The Drash of Iyun was written by Rabbi Aaron, yeah, Rabbi Aaron Levin, who was a Rav in Poland. He wasn't only a Rav in Poland, he was actually a member of the Polish Parliament. And in 1941, he met his death at the hands of the Nazis, but his commentary on Torah, 4/5 of it, has been preserved. We have Bereshis, Shmos, Vayikra, and Bamidbar. We do not have Devarim. It could be he never finished it, but we do have Bereshis, Shmos, and Vayikra, and Bamidbar. And on Bereshis, he makes the following observation. He says, if you'll take a look at stars, if you compare it to the stars in the sky, there's something unique about stars. Each one is an individual. They don't come together. They may form certain constellations, but each star is by itself. When it comes to Chol Hayam, to the sand of the sea, each kernel of the sand in the sea, up on the beach touches every other kernel. Every kernel is tangential to every other kernel because they are a string of kernels, and they all are together, but they don't band together. Dust is unique in that dust comes together. Clumps of dust join together to form unity. Says the Drash Ha'iyim, you want to know when Ufaratsta, Yoma, Vakema, Tzafona, Venegba, and Venivachu, Vachol, Komish, Pachos, Adon, Zarecha, can take place when you are Ka'afar Ha'aretz. When you're like the stars in the sky, people can navigate by the deeds you do. When you're like the sand of the sea, you form a bulwark against which the sea cannot drown all of humanity. But when you are the dust of the earth, you're capable through your unity to spread to the north, south, east, and west throughout the world at large. The last part of this particular pasuk, and in you and all your seed will all the families of the earth be blessed. There's another prophecy that, of course, came true. All right, we're going to go a little further now, and we're going to come to this pasuk. Okay, we come here to pasuk. What is that? Yud Tezayin, pasuk Tezayin. Vayikatz Yaakov Mishnaso. Yaakov gets up from his dream. This was all a dream. The ladder going up and down. It was all in a dream that he saw. He saw from the holiness of the spot he was in. You know, when you go to holy places, there's a certain energy of holiness that comes to a person. I have heard about artists that go to Yerushalayim and are given unbelievable amounts of inspiration to draw the most beautiful paintings they ever did in their lives, because the city of Yerushalayim inspires you and it gets into your neshama and it makes you creative. That's why so many people are holy in the city of Yerushalayim. Anyway, it says here that Yaakov got up from his sleep and he said, behold, God is in this place. And I did not know. Hashem is in this place and I did not know. All right. Let's review, before we go further, what Hashem said to him when he was there. It says here, Hashem was standing by him and he said, I am the God of Abraham, your father, and the God of Yitzchak. The land on which you are lying, I'm giving to you and to your children. The land of Israel was promised over here. Next, your seed will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread to the west, to the east, to the north, to the south, and all the families of the earth will be blessed through you. And in addition, I am going to guard you, that's what it says, and protect you in all that you go, and I will return you to this land. I will not leave you until I do what I had promised to you and to your forefathers. When it says to you, it means to you and to your forefathers, because he was given the blessing. Yaakov wakes up and he says, whoa, Hashem is in this place. and I didn't even know about it. You imagine that? Hashem is here and I did not know. What is he saying? What would, and if he didn't know, how would it make a difference, right? So what I want to do now is I want to go to another share. I want to go to a different spot that we have shared. We're going to end this one. We'll come back to it. Oops. We'll come back to it in a few minutes. Let me get rid of this. It's underneath this. Yeah, here it is. Look at that. This is Rashi. This is Rashi on that pasuk. V'anochi lo yadati, and I did not know. It's true. That's what we just saw. It's true. Hashem is in this place, and I did not know. So what? What are you trying to say, Yaakov? God is in this place, and I didn't know. And if you knew, says Rashi, quoting the Medrash, She'im yadati, for if I had known, lo yashanti b'makom kodesh kazeh, I never would have gone to sleep here. I wouldn't have slept here. Had I known that, I wouldn't have gone to sleep. Now, wait a minute. Let's analyze this. I'm going to go back to the first year, and we're going to see again. What was the promise? Hashem said to him, I'm the God of your father, Avram, Yitzchak. The land you're sleeping on, I'm going to give to you, to your children. You'll be like the dust of the earth, indestructible. You're going to spread all over the world. All the families of earth will be blessed in you. I'm going to guard you. I'm going to bring you back here. Guaranteed. And Yaakov says, hey, I didn't know. Hashem is in this place. I didn't know. Had I known, as Rashi pointed out, and we saw just a moment ago, had I known, I never would have slept. Had I known, I wouldn't have slept in this place, right? That's what he said. Had I known, I wouldn't have, whoops, I'm missing it now. Had I known, I would not have slept in this place. Rashi told us, good. Every time I get to it, so the screen comes down. All right, we'll get it. 1 second. Nope. There it is. I didn't know. Because if I would have known, I wouldn't have slept here. Do you realize that if he wouldn't have gone to sleep, he wouldn't have had the prophecy of getting the land. He wouldn't have had the prophecy of having children, because he said, I'm going to give it to your children. He wouldn't have had the prophecy of you're going to spread to the north, south, east, and west. He wouldn't have had the prophecy that Hashem is going to be with him and return to the land. He would have given all that up if he wouldn't have slept. What's he saying? What is Yaakov saying over here? I want you to know the Oznayim LaTorah, the famous Gutzker Rav, who was the Rosh Yeshiva, tells that Zalman Sorotzkin ultimately moved to Eretz Yisrael and founded the community of Telstone outside Yerushalayim. Rav Zalman Sorotzkin, and not only him, but also the Alta from Slobodka, the famous Nosson Tzvi Finkel, the Alta from Slobodka, came along and he said, Yaakov is telling us an unbelievable message over here. It's a little bit of a musser to us, but it's something really worthwhile. If I would have known what a holy place this was, I would not have gone to sleep. I would have given up on all the prophecies in order not to be pogame, in order not to insult the kavod of the place. This place is so holy and so filled with honor and so filled with the awe of Hashem's presence that I would give up everything so as not to have the insult that accrued to me falling asleep in this place. That's a very, very powerful statement. You know, when we consider the fact that our homes have HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the home. Hashem is present in our homes. Very often, Anochi lo yadati, I did not know. Our shuls have Hashem's presence in the shuls. Unfortunately, very often, people are not aware of the fact that they're in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the shul. in the yeshiva, at all places, in everywhere and everything we do. Hashem is with us. Yaakov is giving us a guideline here that is really, really, very, 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 very powerful. And what we need to do is try to inculcate a little bit of that into our neshama so that we become a little bit more aware of our very nature as Bnei Yisrael. And we're going to go on now, and we're going to go to the next section, which is following this. We're going to go back to our first share right here, and we're going to go to see what happens over here. So anyway, it says Yaakov gets up in the morning, he takes one of the stones, and he makes matzeva, a monument. But by the way, we don't make monuments anymore. There's a famous pasuk in Devarim, Osakim l'chol matzeva, Asher sonei Hashem l'kecha. You can't make matzevas, means monuments. They're not allowed to be made in front of the place of the Beis Hamikdash. Mizbeach you can't make monuments. Now is not the time to discuss that unique faction. But he called the name of this place Beth-El. The name of the original place was Luz. Okay, I could spend a lot of time on Luz. I'm going to point you, if you have a chance, to go look at the Rabbeinu Bechayai on Luz. It's not for today. Maybe at some other point we'll get to what Luz means. I want to go, because we have two more things I'd like to cover today, to the next sentence. It says here, Yaakov makes a neder, and he says, if Hashem will be with me, like he promised, and he will guard me on this road that I am going, and he will give me food to eat, bread to eat, and clothing to wear. Now, of course, what else is bread for? What else are clothing for? That's a separate issue. But notice what he asks for. And he makes a promise. And he says, if God will be with him. So the first question is, why does he say, if God will be with you? Didn't Hashem promise it already? Why is he saying, if that's the case? In addition, he's like we said, only asking for bread and garments. What's going on over here? There's a lot going on. Why does he say, if Hashem will be with you? So we're going to look now at this Ramban. This is a Ramban on this pasuk, which says, Im yihye Elokim imadi, Lashon Rashi. Rashi says, Im yishmer li avtochos alolu shahivticheni. Those are the words of Rashi. Im yishmer li avtochos alolu shahivticheni. If he will guard for me these promises that he made and promised me. He gave me talking to me that he would give it to me. So the Ramban is saying, wait a minute. If Hashem makes the promise, why does Yaakov have to say im? If Hashem made it, it's going to happen, right? Look at the three words in the blue that the Ramban adds. The reason this condition was made by Yaakov is Shelo Yigrom Hachet. Literally, that the sin should not cause that he loses this promise. People, Hashem promises us so much, and we deserve what Hashem promises us. But we have to be aware that even Yaakov was aware that all these promises are interdependent on his free will. Yaakov is going to a place where his free will is going to be tested ad infinitum. He is going to be tested by the likes of Lavan, who, with his chicanery, as we're going to see in a few minutes, brings about some of the worst things in humanity. So Yaakov Avinu, and we're going to go back to our pasuk now, Yaakov Avinu is saying, if Hashem will still be with me and guard me on the path that I'm going, and he will give me bread to eat and clothes to wear, because maybe I will not be deserving. Because I'm going to a place I'm so afraid to go there. I'm so afraid because I'm no longer going to be under the guidance of my father and mother, my Yitzchak and Rivka. I'm not going to be in the place where Avraham Avinu lived and established the concept of seeking non-material things by going towards the south of Israel instead of the north, always seeking the spiritual highs. And consequently, he's saying, if Hashem will still be with me, because I don't fall away in a spiritual fashion, then I know that these things will happen. I just want to focus on the fact that he's only asking for lechem, lecho, ubeged, lilbosh, and the Rabbeinu Bechayai makes mention of the fact that Rabbeinu Bechayai Rav Asher, that great 14th century scholar who wrote the Rabbeinu Bechayai, he says, notice, Yaakov did not ask for a lot of wealth. He's asking for lechem lecho ubeged lilbosh, bread to eat and clothes to wear. And within those four words are two blessings. First of all, the lechem, which is a basic staple, but he's saying, you can give me bread, but if I'm sick, God forbid, and I can't eat it, what's the point of having the bread? So I want a blessing not only of the bread, but the health with which to eat it. In addition, beged lilbosh, you're giving me clothing, but I should be healthy enough, I should be capable of wearing those garments, wearing them because I'm part of the world. So he's asking for very simple things. And our Chazal have told us over and over again that it's good for a human being to be mistapek b'muat, to be happy with a little bit less, not always to run after the most luxurious brands and things on earth. Of course, this is all individual. It depends on the status in life you have. If someone can afford a more luxurious lifestyle and it benefits them to come closer to Hashem, kol hakavod. The problem is only going to be when someone has his focus only on the materialistic wealth and not on the opportunities that material wealth can bring you for freedom of worry and concern and the ability to spend more time in developing your spiritual nature. And that's what Yaakov basically is asking for. I want to go to the last section for today's Shiur. And in order to do that, we're going to go way ahead a little bit over here and just scroll down very quickly. And we're going to get to the, oh, here it is. Wow. Okay. Pasuk is telling us, here it is. Lavan shtei banos. Lavan had two daughters. The older one was Leah, the younger one was Rachel. And Leah's eyes were very weak, as the Pasuk says, but Rachel was very beautiful. Again, when the Torah contrasts these things, there's a reason for it. We're not going to spend time on that today, but Leah's eyes were weak, according to the Medrash, because we know Avraham married Sarah, his niece. Yitzchak married Rivka, his cousin. Yaakov would assume, and Esau would marry their two cousins, Leah and Rachel. Leah, the older one, would ultimately marry Esau, the older one, and Rachel, the younger one, would marry Yaakov, the younger one. When Leah realized that the possibility was that she was going to marry Esau, her eyes cried out all their beauty, and her eyes were weak from crying, according to the Medrash. Rachel maintained what she always was, because she was under the impression she would marry Yaakov. Now, Yaakov developed a relationship with Rachel somewhere along the line, and he said, we know that this before this, that Rachel, came out to greet him when he was rolling the stone off the mouth of the well. So it says that Yaakov loved Rachel, and he said, I will work for you for 7 years for Rachel bitcha haktana. Don't fool me. I know you're a trickster. Don't fool me. So Lavan says, oh, great idea. We're going to give it to you. I should give it to somebody else. So Yaakov worked 7 years. And even though you would think it's terrible, he said, no, it was a pleasure. I knew what I had a goal, and I was able to make through the 7 years as if they were one day. So after the 7 days, after the 7 years, Yaakov comes to Lavan. He says, give me my wife. So Lavan gets everybody together, makes a big party, a wedding, after all. I don't know which band he hired. I don't know who the caterer was. But it was a big fancy schmancy wedding. And it was in the evening. He took Leah and brought her to Yaakov. Under the chuppah, he switched people. Okay. Then he gives Lavan Zilpah to Leah as a shifcha. Another tricky thing, because Zilpah was the younger slave. The assumption was she would go to the younger one. Anyway, the pasuk says, "Vayehi b'boker." It was in the morning. Let me get rid of this, please. It was in the morning, and behold, it's Leah. So he says to Lavan, "Hey, what'd you do over here? I was supposed to get Rachel." Now, how this happened is not my problem. You can imagine. First of all, they must have looked alike. They maybe the same height, everything. The only problem was her eyes were not so clear, and maybe she wore a veil. Some people say that's why you're not supposed to wear a veil that hides the face under the chuppah. Others say as long as you check out before the chuppah who's beneath the veil. These are all minhagim. The fact is, Lavan tricked Yaakov. Who was in on the trick? Who was in on the trick? Rachel was in on the trick. As Rashi points out, Rachel gave all the signs that Yaakov and her had developed so that he knew and she knew Lavan was going to try to trick. Rachel shared those signs with her sister so that Yaakov could be tricked. Now, whether or not you approve of what Rachel did or not is not the point. What's interesting here is, look at the power of this Rachel. What an unbelievable power. Here was this love of her life that she was destined from the day one in her mind to marry, and she's promised to marry him. And her father substitutes her sister for her. And rather than have her sister brought to ruin because she doesn't know the signs that they made up, she shares them with her. Unbelievable. Let's go to a different share. I'm going to stop this one. I'm going to go to another one right now. Okay. And I'm going to get this for you right away. Here it is. Okay. Here's the share that we want. And look at this. I am now sharing with you the Medrash in Eicha, in Besichta Chav Daled. Let's read it together. I'm going to read it for you, and we're going to see this unbelievable thing. Rachel is talking to Hashem. Uma ani, sha'ani basar v'adam. Look at me. I'm nothing but flesh and blood. Ofar, v'efer. I'm dust and ash. Lo kinasi litzarasi. Lo kinasi litzara sheli. I didn't have jealousy with the wife that was being brought in my place. V'lo hotze siha levusha ulecherpa. And I didn't allow her to be brought to embarrassment and shame. And she's talking to God and says, and you, the God of everlasting life, Rachamon, the great merciful one, why are you jealous of the Jewish people who are worshiping idol worship in the time of the first Beis Hamikdash? The Osu Oyevim Bom Kirtzonam, and the evil people have done with them whatever they wanted. Miyad, immediately when that happened, the Medrash said, this Galilu Racham of Shalakodesh Baruch Hu, Hashem's mercy rolled in. Vayomer, and he said to Rachel, Bishvilcha Rachel, because of you, Rachel, Ani Machaziras Yisrael ben Kalman, I'm going to bring the Jews back to their place. Ahu the Amar, that is Adohu the Amar. That's what it says in the pasuk. And now he's quoting a pasuk, this whole pasuk that I'm about to highlight over here. Okay. This is a pasuk from Yirmiyah Lamed Aleph. By the way, this is read in the shul on Rosh Hashanah. Ko Amar Hashem. This is what Hashem says. Ko b'Ramah nishma. A voice is heard on high. Nehi b'chi tamrudim. There is a voice of bitterness. In the word maror. I just made a terrible mistake. Let me see if I can undo. Now I can. I don't highlight this whole thing. Okay. There it goes. Kol b'Ramah nishma. There is a voice heard on high. Nehi b'chi tamrudim. It's the voice of bitter crying. Rachel mevaka al boneo. Rachel is crying over her children. This is Yirmiyah Lamed Aleph. Me'ano lehi nochem. She refuses to be confident al boneo ki einenu, on her children because they're not there. The Kosev, and then the Pasuk says, Ko Amar Hashem. This is what Hashem said. Min'i kolech mibechi. Hold your voice back from crying. Ve'einayach midima, and your eyes from tearing. Ki yesh sachar lefulasem. Because there is reward for what you did. When you gave your sister the signs, there is a reward for that. And as Yirmiyah says, Uksiv, v'yesh tikva la'ach nisech. There is hope for you. And Nu'um Hashem, and watch this, the last line. V'shavu v'anim ligvulam. The children shall return to their border. Because of what Rachel did. No jealousy, overcoming her inner desire to be what she was destined to be, and not to embarrass her sister. As I say, I think this is one of the greatest midrashim that help us understand the nature of the Jewish people. The very founding of Klal Yisrael is predicated upon this type of decency and humanity, because that's what Rachel did. And the return to the borders, this prophecy has come true in our time. We have seen this prophecy in our time. We are living at the time where this prophecy came true. This prophecy came true in our lives. Okay, so we see Vayetze, this is just scratching the surface, we see that Parsha's Vayetze has an unbelievable amount of great import for the Jewish people. It has the import of Yaakov coming to a place in davening Ma'ariv because he was facing the Golus. We see the import of Yaakov recognizing that no matter what happens, the promise that Hashem has made to us needs to be tempered with respect and decency for the place that Hashem occupies in this world. And we also always have to say, God is in this place. We learn about the uniqueness of the Jewish people, that they're indestructible because they're like the Afar Ha'aretz, which can never be destroyed. And that prophecy has come true too. And finally, of course, what Rachel did, and that it's come true in spades in our time. That's why maybe Kever Rachel is so beloved by so many people. I don't know about you, but one of the most emotional outpourings of davening I ever had in my life was at Kever Rachel. Even though, no question, the Kotel is awe-inspiring. Something about Mama Rachel, something about the mother crying for her children. And Hashem promising, they're coming home. They are coming back. It's going to happen. And we Jews have held on to that with our faith, with our emunah. And no matter what they've thrown at us, we've had this positive hope for the future that that's what's going to happen. Wow, how amazing is that? Okay, I want to take the opportunity once again to wish everyone a wonderful Shabbos. I want to remind you that if you'd like to sponsor a Shiur, it's greatly appreciated. Please let us know. Yes, Hashem, we will meet again next Thursday night. Okay, Parsha Vayishlach, another powerful Parsha in the ongoing birth of the nation of Israel. And more than welcome to join us. I'd like to mention once again that if you check our website, you will see that Avram Fried will be joining us on Saturday night, November 27th. You're more than welcome to come to Lava Malta and to join together with the singing and all the simcha that's going to take place at that time. I would like to also say that if you're in our neighborhood Sunday morning, we have a siyum on the Daf Yomi Masechta Rosh Hashanah. Welcome to join us for that. Of course, that was learned in memory of Mordechai Rottenstein's parents and sister, and the Shemas of having Aliyah. And thank you so much, Mordechai, for that and for seeing. And we're going to be working at getting more and more the Shiurim online. You're more than welcome to join us at any time. Once again, a good Shabbos to everybody. Shabbat Shalom. Have a great Shabbos, and we look forward to joining together again in the future. Any questions? Here we go. Okay. Have a great Shabbos, everybody.
Have a great Shabbos.
Great Shabbos.